So what happens is, let's look at Toys R Us, which is catastrophic. Okay. Toys R Us was the most successful toy company in world history. And they were acquired by private equity. They were taken private off the US stock market by a private equity firm in a hostile and forced takeover. They saw them as something that they wanted, and they thought that they could exploit revenue out of it. And that's what happened. They went to a bank, and let's say they bought it. Let's just use a round number. Let's say they bought it for $100 million. You would think that meant that private equity firm had to go raise $100 million from their investors. No. That's how normal acquisition went when our economy was plugging along the way it was supposed to, when we had guardrails. They only needed $3 million to get their $100 million. So they raised $3 million. And they said, we'll put up $3 million and you're going to loan us $97 million. And Toys R Us is going to be the borrower, not us. We're organizing it all. We're planning it all. We have all the control. We can take all the money from Toys R Us we want. We can dividend out whatever we want. We can sign contracts on their behalf, but they're the borrower. We're not the borrower. They're the borrower. Toys R Us. And so they stack $100 million on top of Toys R Us, which didn't owe $100 million when they were successful before they got there. So now they have a big new bill, big shiny new bill, $100 million. They got to pay it back. Now, this is obviously a huge hindrance because it increases their overhead 100 million strong. For the record, Toys R Us, we were in billions, not millions, but I'm just trying to keep it round.
Yeah.
So then the private equity firm says, well, we want our $3 million back right away. So we're going to sign a contract with Toys R Us. We're going to sign both sides of the contract because we can sign for both. We're going to sign both sides. We're their new advisors. We're their financial advisors. We're their operations advisors. We're their management advisors. We're their tax advisors. And each one of those things are going to pay us back $5 million a month. New bill. And so then they advise them to cut all their staff. So they lay everybody off and they pay themselves $5 million a month for that. Round numbers again, right?
Yeah.
So now they've already gotten their $3 million back in the first month. We're good. We're whole. And we're not at risk of bankruptcy because our name's not on the loan. Toys R Us's name is on the loan. So then they say, well, we want to make big money. And you know what Toys R Us has a lot of that's made them be successful? They bought all the land their stores were built on. They own it. Why would we do that? We could just rent land. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign for Toys R Us to sell all of the land under every store they own in the United States. And you know what we're going to have them sell it to? Our sister firm that we also own, that's our real estate investment trust. We're going to sell it to ourselves for cheap. We're going to lease it back to them for expensive. So now they have a lease they didn't have when they were still successful. So now they're paying management firm fees, and they're paying debt fees, and they're paying the lease fees. They need more dividends. We need more money. So next, we're going to look at all their warehouses where they have backstock that carries them over in economic downturn. And we're going to sell that to a liquidator, all of the extra stock. And we're going to sell the warehouses, maybe to our real estate investment firm. We can lease those back too. Cool. You know what else we could do? We could sell off all of the truck fleet that we have that moves our merchandise around the country. And we could start renting trucks. And we'll dividend that money back to ourselves. All of the infrastructure that Toys R Us had built over 100 years to become the successful powerhouse it was, they decimated in literally 2 years. Okay? Then they kept making cuts and making cuts. And all of the things that Toys R Us would have had to rely on in that next economic downturn, they could have borrowed money against their real estate. They could have borrowed and collateralized their trucking fleet. They could have borrowed and collateralized against their warehouses or against the assets in their warehouses. They could have borrowed and collateralized against their cash stores they were holding. But they don't have any cash stores anymore because that was also dividended back. And at the end of this, Toys R Us can no longer make their payments to the bank, right? So they're going to have to file bankruptcy. And that's going to fall on the U.S. taxpayers. They're going to pay that bill. And then what's going to happen is all of the assets that Toys R Us have left, which is largely only the intellectual property at this point, we're going to have a fire sale. And you know who's going to buy it for pennies on the dollar? One of our sister private equity firms. And they're going to get the intellectual property, and then we're going to sell that to Macy's to use. And then we're going to go buy Macy's and we're going to start over again.